right? Let's see if we got shit in. Sorry about that. Hope you'll be able to have lunch. Well, it's gross. The whole idea of apparently some rich having feasts all day long. And that was like every day, all day long. I was like, that's gross, right? And a waste, etc. So you can imagine. And yet, apparently, there were Romans, and even Nero's day, that believed that Epicureanism was, the idea of just enjoying every moment of life. And so this was one of the ways that, the Roman elite, basically tried to live, misinterpreting Epicurus. Epicurus wanted, people to live a long life. That was a good life, not just merely long, but instead, that you did very Aristotelian type things, at least as far as your own happiness and so on, including learning and so on. Not this, and yet that continued to be really influencing us still today. So when you go to an Epicurean restaurant, I think it has more of that kind of influence than really of real Epicurus. So moving along, the next philosophy. So I mean, if you think Cynics, basically how to be happy, and it's mostly avoid all the stresses and attachments of society. Epicurus is going to have more attachments, but still not the full thing. He's not fully participating in the society. But when you move over to the Stoics, you end up with a philosophy that believes the goal of life is, as Aristotle said, to have a good society. In order to have a good society, people have to go to the different committee meetings. They have to run for office. They have to be, the mayor. You have to go to the assembly meetings. Voice your opinion, participate. Is it boring? Absolutely. You've never sat, on a committee meeting, you have to be polite to even the people that are dumb, right? Let them come in and say their piece and everything, and you're sitting there thinking, I could be home playing golf, But instead you're there, putting up with everybody having their say, and then at the end of the meeting you have the discussion with the people that understand the issue, and you decide what you think should be right. It's a boring, taxing job, and taxing is part of it too, right? And you have to pay your taxes. As examples of this, we have people like Epictetus. And it's interesting, people like bringing up that Epictetus was Greek, but he was enslaved. So he became a slave for the Romans, and in fact he was a slave during Nero's day. And since he was an educated Greek, he wasn't a slave that mopped the floor and stuff in the sweeping division, but he was instead working on the councils and things. But officially, he was owned by I don't even know who. But so he was, and eventually he was freed, and he started his own school. And it's a Stoic. He's not the one that gives Stoicism its name. The one that gives Stoicism its name is Zeno. And there's several Zenos, but this one is Zeno of Citium. And Stoa is the porch. When you see those Greek and Roman buildings with the pillars, that front area where you're going in, that is the porch. That's the Stoa. And in fact, Zeno would teach on the painted porch. So those pillars were actually painted various colors, and are very, if you've ever seen the museum, the art museum in Philadelphia, they painted the front so that they know today that those things were painted to be lifelike and so on, and so you could see all the colors and so on. But so the Stoa Poikile, the painted porch, right? But so Stoics are associated with this philosophy, and what is it? So this is the philosophy of empire. This is the philosophy that says we do have to do these jobs even though they're boring, and so you have to learn a particular Stoic attitude while you're going through all of this, including in war and so on, where you're doing stuff that's horrible. How can you live a happy life when you have this kind of situation, right? Well, you steel yourself against it. You basically internalize your thinking so it's not affecting you, basically, right? I confess, remember I went to school, I got my MA before I joined the Army, so that's, just totally the opposite of typical folks' experience. So I'm in the Army in basic training, and the drill sergeant's looking at everyone and saying, "Recruit, you're lower than whale shit at the bottom of an ocean," and everything, and their goal initially is to destroy you, literally, because they want to break you down into nothing and then build you up as part of a green team, right? And they do an excellent job of this. This is not just those individual drill sergeants that have learned on their own how to do this. This is a cultural thing that the various militaries all know. Do this, do this, do this. When they first come in, you don't give them individual stalls in the bathroom so that they have to shit in front of everybody else. There's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into all of this, so that your self-identity is just literally under the gun constantly. Well, granted, I was aware of this, so as the drill sergeant's, saying, "Are you a rabbit?" Because I'm eating lettuce, so I wanted roughage, and "Are you a rabbit?" "Yes, drill sergeant." You don't say no. That just makes things worse for you, right? And when they say things that you think are funny, keep a straight face and don't laugh, because that just makes it worse too, right? And you're seeing other people that are being destroyed. They're in tears. "Oh, I go home to my mommy." I remember that. As an adult male that was just totally destroyed and wanted to go, and he left. We took this one down too far again. They send him off. But the way you handle it, of course, is when they're making you do stuff and everything, is you internally withdraw away from what's happening to your body outside, and you think to yourself, "Aha, this is fun. This is interesting. And this is a terrific way for them to achieve their goal." In other words, you think about other things. You avoid experiencing it on the as it's happening. Another example of this would be driving down the Glen Highway. You're following the speed limit. You're behaving, because the main thing is getting where you're going safely and everybody else safe too. And some asshole comes driving by and cuts everybody off. And you could feel the squirt of adrenaline. You want to kill this person. All those things. But you have self-control. You use your Stoic app, and you tell yourself, he's going to run off the road a couple miles down, and we'll pass by him and wave while he's in the ditch. Or not. But in other words, you just totally self-control. Control that your mind attitude towards it so that you're okay with what's going on. So that's the Stoic approach, right? So you still get the jobs done, but you're also at the same time trying to maintain your self, composure, etc. Right? So lots of those. One of them, Epictetus was a slave. But Marcus Aurelius, who wrote, of course, Marcus Aurelius was an emperor. Well, if you saw the movie Gladiator, he was played by Richard Harris, and his son snuffs him, in order to take over, etc. But Marcus Aurelius, his contemporaries said he would have been a better emperor if he had been less of a philosopher, and he'd have been a better philosopher if he had been less of an emperor. So it's kind of, can't do both jobs, at once. But he's also a Stoic. So you see Stoics at all sides, not just the emperor, but also the slave. And it's the philosophy of empire. When we look at the Nazis during World War II, what was their highest value? The highest value was the state. So if the state ordered you to do something, that was your value. You had to do that. When we're looking at the Nuremberg trials and put a lot of Nazis on trial for doing things that we thought were immoral, remember, we used our judgment. I'm saying we because it was the Allies and we were U.S. I wasn't around then, of course, maybe an infant, but you get the idea. The Allies imposed their moral view on the Nazis, and since the Nazis thought it was morally justified to kill civilians because you were ordered to do it, they did it. And we imposed our rules and said, no, you're never allowed to kill civilians. And if you get an order like that, it's an improper order. It's an immoral order. You can't follow immoral orders. One of your obligations as a soldier is to recognize when you're being ordered to do something that's wrong and not do it, right? Try actually fulfilling that kind of situation. One of my favorite examples is Lieutenant Calley, who was the lieutenant that was tried for the My Lai massacre. Yet it seems pretty clear he was ordered to do that. And so he was following orders, but no, he was the one that was the fall guy and punished. The higher-ups were kind of left out of that, as I understand it. Maybe I'm misunderstanding what happened, but that seems to me, over the years, what happened there. Okay, so the Stoics are actively involved in all of that stuff, and yet still trying to maintain a kind of inner self-control, keeping themselves happy mentally, at least, right? And you can think of the Marines and how they enjoy enjoy the I forget the miserable things that you do. Embrace the suck. Thank you. Why did that not come? I'm getting old. But embrace the suck. Yeah, you can enjoy, clawing through the cold mud and dodging bullets and stuff. It's a mindset, and in a sense, that's certainly a Stoic approach. But so moving on, the next one that I wanted to touch on was Plotinus, and I've only got 3 minutes. My goodness, so let's go Plotinus. And Plotinus is a Neoplatonist. So many of them don't have noses. I don't know why that is. In any case, he's a Neoplatonist. And by the way, Ammonius Saccas, one of his teachers, was actually, at least for a time, a Christian. So there's an interrelationship between early Christianity and Plotinus. And I would say basically, as a Platonist, his main difference between Plato is thinking of the universe as as the cosmos, as interconnected, so that the good actually can be experienced while we're alive. So it's not just something where the only time you're going to once again be connected with the full good of heaven, basically, is when you're dead. Instead, you can actually mingle with heaven while alive, and he claimed to have accomplished that 4 times in his life. How does he do it? By meditation. Meditation